Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at May Day by George Chapman, written sometime in the middle of the 1690s. We don't have a precise date, but yeah, somewhere in that first decade ish. It is putatively performed by children of the Queen's Revels, but I think there might be some ambiguity on that as well. I don't have much textual authority on this particular text, so fingers crossed it all reads and flows nicely. It's a chunky old one, but not an excessively chunky one, so we'll do this over 3 sessions and hopefully it'll bounce along nicely. To find out, we've had some fun times with George before, so we'll see how this one flows. So reading today, Angelo is
Sarah Blake trying really hard not to burst into a Brotherhood of Man song.
Reading Lodovico today is
Mark in the Midwest United States.
Reading Lorenzo today is
Irene in Greece.
Reading Gasparo and Temperance today is
Lois in London.
Reading Aurelio and Fannio is
Hi, I'm Eric, and I hope that will fan the flames.
Reading Emilia and Lionello is
Hi, I'm Sue, and I'm in Norwich, England.
And reading Giacomo and Lucretia is
Rachel in Canada.
Reading Innocentio is
Connor in London.
And reading Franceschina and Leonoro is
Lynn in the northwestern United States.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions. I may have to fill in to read Quintiliano, who as of yet has not appeared, but I'll see if I can arrange that within the rest of the company, which I will do when people do long speeches. Not that there are any long speeches in this play. I'm sure there aren't. I'm sure they're all very short. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Act 1, Scene 1. There's a load of people come in singing and dancing. They go out dancing. Meanwhile, we have Lorenzo entering with papers in his hand.
Well done, my lusty bloods, well done. Fit observance for this May morning. Not the May month alone they take when it comes, nor the first week of that month, nor the first day, but the first minute of the first hour of the first day. Lose no time, bloods, lose no time. Though the sun go to bed never so much before you, yet be you up before him. Call the golden sluggard from the silver arms of his lady to light you into yours. When your old Father January here, in one of his last days, thrusts his forehead into the depth of May's fragrant bosom, that what may you Aprils perform then? Oh, what may you do? Well, yet will I say this much for myself, wheresoever the affections of youth are, there must needs be the instruments, and where the instruments are, there must of necessity be the faculties. What am I short of them, then? A sound old man, ably constituted, wholesomely dieted, that took his May temperately at their ages, and continues his own. Why should he not continue their ages in his own? By the mass, I feel nothing that stands against it, and therefore, sweet May, I salute thee with the youngest. I have loved to employ thee in, as well as the proudest young princock, and so have it you. Mistress Franceschina, have to you, Mistress Frank. I'll spread my nets for you, in faith, though they be my very purse nets, wherein that what heart will not willingly lie panting.
Enter Angelo.
Life, I wonder what made this May morning so cold. And now I see 'tis this January that intrudes into it. Oh, What paper is that he holds in hand, Trow?
Here have I put her face in rhyme, but I fear my old vein will not stretch to her contentment. O hair, no hair that beams stolen from the sun.
Out upon her, if it be she that I think, she has a fox-red cranion.
A forehead that disdains the name of fair.
Yeah, and reason, for 'tis a foul one.
A matchless eye.
True, her eyes be not matches.
A cheek vermilion red.
Painted, I warrant you.
A far commanding mouth.
It stretches to her ears, indeed.
A nose made of wax.
A red nose, in sincerity.
And this could I send, but person does it. A good presence to bear out a good wit, a good face, a pretty court leg, and a deft, dapper personage, no superfluous dimensions, but fluent in competence. For it is not Hector, but Paris, not the full armful, but the sweet handful that ladies delight in.
Oh, notable old Wynyard.
Such a size of humanity now, and brain enough in it, it is not in the strength of a woman to withstand. Well, she may hold out a parley or two, for 'tis a weak fort that obeys at the first or second summons. If she resist the third, she is discharged, though she yield in future, for then it appears that it was no fault of hers, but the man who would take no denial. What rests now? Means of access. True. Oh, an honest board were worth gold now.
Oh, plague upon him. I had thought to appear to him, but now, if I do, he will take me for the man he talks on. I will, therefore, post by his dull eyesight as in haste of business.
What, Signor Angelo? Ah, soft, I command you.
Running after Angelo and catching him.
Jesus, what mean you, sir?
I would be loath to be outrun, I assure you, sir. Was I able to stay?
Your ability stood too stiff, sir. Beshrew me else.
Oh, most defenceless fault. I would thou wouldst blaze my imperfection to one thou knowest of it.
Oh, well, sir, another time. Tell me where she is, and I'll do so much for you gratis. Good morrow, sir.
Nay, stay, good Angelo.
My business says nay, sir. You have made me stay to my pains, sir. I thank you.
Not a wit man, I warrant thee.
Go to, then, briefly. To whom shall I commend your imperfections? Will you tell me if I name her?
That I will, faith boy.
Is not her hair no hair, but beams stolen from the sun?
Black as an ozone.
A forehead that disdains the name of fair.
Away, witch, away.
A matchless eye.
Hey, fie. I see that there's a very devil, Angelo. And in earnest, I jested when I said my desire of thy friendship touched myself, for it concerns a friend of mine, just of my standing.
To whom, then, would he be remembered that I can solicit?
To sweet Mistress Franceschina, with whom I hear thou art ready to lie down, thou art so great with her.
I am as great as a near kinsman may be with her, sir, not otherwise.
A good consanguinity, and a good Angelo, to her wilt thou deliver from my friend in all secrecy these poor brace of bracelets?
Perhaps I will, sir, when I know what the gentleman and his intent is.
Never examine that, man. I would not trouble you with carrying too much at once to her. Only tell her such a man will resolve her naming me, and I do not greatly care if I take the pains to come to her. So I stay no longer and be let in privily. And so, without making many words, here they be. Put them up closely, I beseech thee, and deliver them as closely.
Well, sir, I love no contention with friends, and therefore pocket many things that otherwise I would not. But I pray, sir, license me a question. Do not I know this no gentleman that offers my cousin this kindness?
Never sawest him in thy life, at least never knewest him, but for his bounty's sake, to all his well-willers, if this message be friendly discharged, I may chance put a dear friend of him into your bosom, sir, and make you profitably acquainted.
But I pray you, sir, is he not a elderly gentleman?
Wide, as young as day, I protest to thee.
I know he is young too, but that is inability of body. But is he not a pretty little Scot gentleman, as you shall see amongst 1,000?
Still from the cushions, still. Tall and high, like a cedar.
I know he is tall also, but it is in it is in his mind, sir, and it is not Hector, but Paris, not the full armful, but the sweet handful that a lady delights to dandle.
Now the good devil take thee, if there be any such in hell, I beseech thee.
Well, Signor Lorenzo, if faith the little squire is thought to be as parlous a piece of flesh for a piece of flesh as any hunts the whole pale of Venus, I protest you.
I cannot contain myself in faith, boy. If the wenches come in my walk, I give 'em that they come for. I dally not with them.
I know you do not, sir. His dallying days be done.
In my infirmity, it is my infirmity, and I cannot be withal to die for't.
I believe you, sir.
There are certain envious old fellows, my neighbours, that say I am one unyieldy and stiff. Angelo, didst ever hear any wench complain of my stiffness?
Never in my life. Your old neighbours measure you by themselves.
Why, there's the matter there.
But if faith, sir, do you ever hope to win your purpose at my losing hands? Knowing her, as all the world does, a woman of that approved lowliness of knife, and so generally tried?
As for that, take thou no care. She's a woman, is she not?
Sure, I do take her to have the flesh and blood of a woman.
Then good enough, or then bad enough. 'Tis taken. This token shall be my gentleman usher to prepare my access, and then let me alone with her.
Ay, marry, sir, I think you would be alone with her. Well, sir, I will do my best, but if your gentleman usher should not get entrance for you now, it would be a grief to me.
Enter Gasparo, an old clown.
Fear it not, man. Gifts and gold take the strongest hold. Away! Here comes a smudge. A snudge, that must be my son-in-law. I would be loath he should suspect these tricks of youth in me, for fear my daughter will trot after me.
Fare you well, sir.
Exit Angelo.
God give you good morrow, sir. God give you good morrow.
A good morrow, neighbour Gasparo. I have talked with my daughter, whom I do yet find a green young plant, and therefore unapt to bear such ripe fruit. I think I might have said rotten as yourself, but she is at my disposition, and shall be yours in the end. Here's my hand, and with my hand take hers.
Nay, by my faith, sir, you must give me leave to shake her portion by the hand first.
It is ready told of you, sir. Come home when you will, and receive it.
Enter Emilia.
And see, yonder she comes away. She cannot yet abide you, because she fears she can abide you too well.
Well, I will come for her portion, sir, and till then, God take you to his mercy.
Exit Gasparo.
Adieu, my good son-in-law. I will not interrupt her. Let her meditate o'er my late motion.
Exit Lorenzo, and we'll just pause there. Well, we've sort of cleared all those original characters. We've got Emilia still on stage. So we've got someone who has intentions, and it's that time of year. It's May. It's time to make some plans. And Angelo overhears obviously a lot of stuff that he gets to comically quote back, and plots are in motion, some of which may be a bit opaque to us, but may become clearer as we go on. I'll go to Lynn.
I don't know, maybe I'm just cranky. It is early in the morning, but I hate everybody so far. I mean, Lorenzo wants to seduce a significantly younger woman. I mean, it's clear his intentions are not honorable. He's looking for a bawd, so he's not like, oh, I want to get married again and she's so beautiful. No, he wants to seduce her, and Gasparo wants to marry Lorenzo's daughter, but like, show me the money. Yeah, and Lorenzo also fully intends to marry his daughter to a man she hates. And
I think we can establish that Lorenzo's not a nice guy. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, and I don't like Gasparo either, or Gasparo, probably. Italian 3-syllable words tend to have the emphasis on the first syllable. It's just like, yeah, I want to marry your daughter, but where's her dowry? And not about Angelo, who's Franceschina's cousin, like acting as a go-between. I mean, why doesn't he just say, no, I'm not doing that. I know your intentions aren't honorable. I hate everyone. Sorry.
Well, I think we can give, at the moment at least, Lorenzo the benefit of the doubt, because he is mercilessly mocking this guy. So, we don't know for certain that he's going to actually engage in this process particularly deeply. I suspect not. I don't know. It might be. He might also turn out to be a horrible, horrible person. But if they all end unhappily, then that's fine.
That's okay. It's just mean things about his cousin, too. It's like, she's not that cute. She's like, oh, yeah, she wears makeup, I also wanted to put hair, no hair. It's like, it's the Spanish tragedy again.
Always love to throw in a bit of the Spanish tragedy here and there. Other thoughts on the room, Mark?
Is this a meta joke that I'm noticing right before Angelo actually joins the conversation? Where Lorenzo has said, like, oh, if only I had an honest bod. And Angelo says, I was about to walk in, but now if I walk in, he'll think I'm the bod, because that's how plays work. That's how I'm interpreting that. Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah, that's a sort of fair. I mean, it's not wholly meta, but it is referring to it's sort of he understands the conventions of these things. But yeah, it's in that universe. Other thoughts? No. Shall we gather some more data? Because we haven't heard from Emilia. Emilia has entered. Let's see what Emilia has to say.
It is strange to see the impiety of parents, both privileged by custom and professed. The holy institution of heaven ordaining marriage for proportioned minds, for our common human comforts and the increase the loved images of God in men, is now perverted to the increase of wealth. We must bring riches forth, and like the cuckoo hatch others' eggs, join house to house in choices fit timber logs and stones, not men and women.
Enter Aurelio.
Ay me, here's one I must shun, would embrace.
Exit Emilia. Who's Aurelio?
Oh, stay and hear me speak or see me die.
He falls prostrate. Enter Lodovico and Giacomo.
Oh, now, what have we here? What a loathsome creature man is being drunk. Is it not pity to see a man of good hope, a towards scholar, writes a theme well, scans a verse very well, and likely in time to make a proper man, a good leg, specially in a boot, valiant, well spoken, and in a word, what not? And yet all this overthrown, as you see, drowned, quite drowned, in a quart pot.
Oh, these same wicked healths breed monstrous diseases.
Aurelio! Speak, man, Aurelio!
Pray heaven all be well.
Ah, speak if any spark of speech remain. It is thy dear Emilia that calls.
Well, it becomes not a friend to touch the deadly wounds of his friend with a smiling countenance.
Touch these, blood I could find in my heart to beat thee. Up, in a fool's name, up! What a scene of foppery have we here.
Prithee, have done.
Up, cuckoo, Cupid's bird, or by this light, I'll fetch thy father to thee.
Good Lodovico, if thou lovest me, leave me. Thou comest to counsel me from that which is joined with my soul in eternity. I must and will do what I do.
Do so then, and I protest thou shalt never lick thy lips after my kinswoman while thou livest. I had thought to have spoken for thee if thou hadst taken a manly course with her, but to fold up thyself like an urchin and lie a calving to bring forth a husband, I am ashamed to think on't. Sblood, I've heard of wenches that have been won with singing and dancing, and some with riding, but never heard of any that was won with tumbling in my life.
If thou knew how vain thou seemest.
I do it of purpose, to show how vain I hold thy disease. Sart, art thou the first that has shot at a wench's heart and missed it? Must that shot that missed her wound thee? Let her shake her ears, and a shrew's name, were she my cousin 1,000 times, aye. And if I were as thee, I would make her shake her heels too, for I would shake mine thus.
Oh, vanity, vanity.
Death, if any wench should offer to keep possession of my heart against my will, I'd fire her out with sack and sugar, or smoke her out with tobacco like a hornet, or purge for her, for love is but a humor. One way or other, I would vent her, that's infallible.
For shame, hold thy tongue. Methinks thy wit should feel how stale are these love scorns, and with what general privilege love pierces the worthiest. Seek to help thy friend, not mock him.
Marry, seek to help thyself, then, in a halter's name. Do not lie in a ditch and say, God help me! Use the lawful tools he hath lent thee. Up, I say! I will bring thee to her.
She'll not endure me.
She shall endure thee. Do the worst thou canst to her, aye, and endure thee till thou canst not endure her. But then thou must use thyself like a man, and a wise man. How deep soe'er she is in thy thoughts, carry not the prince of it in thy looks. Be bold and careless, and stand not sauntering afar off, as I have seen you, like a dog in a furmity pot that licks his chops and wags his tail, and fain would lay his lips to it, but he fears 'tis too hot for him. That's the only way to make her too hot for thee. He that holds religious and sacred thoughts of a woman, he that bears so reverent respect to her that he will not touch her but with a kissed hand and a timorous heart, he that adores her like a goddess, let him be sure she will shun him like her slave. Alas, good souls, women of themselves are tractable and tactable enough, and would return quid for quod still. But we are they that spoil 'em. We shall answer for it another day. We are they that put a kind of wanton melancholy into them, that makes them think their noses bigger than their faces, greater than the sun in brightness. And whereas nature made them but half fools, we make them all fool. And this is our palpable flattery of them, where they had rather have plain dealing. Well, in conclusion, I'll to her instantly, and if I do not bring her to thee, or at the least some special favor from her, as a feather from her fan, or a string from her shoe to wear in thy hat, and so forth, then never trust my skill in poultry, whilst thou livest again.
Exit Lodovico with the others, and end of the first scene officially. So I just like it's like Emilia listened to what Lynn was saying and just went, I don't like any of these people. They've all got these horrible. And Emilia just comes on and goes, God, these people are all awful. This is terrible. What they're planning. You know, why? Oh, hang on. Here's someone I fancy. I'm going to disappear for a bit. So that was a nice. Even though Emilia only had about 8 lines, it was a really nice moment of just sort of where you just go, yes, okay, we understand the setup of the play. The setup of the play is that there are some awful people who are doing terrible things, but that is basically how comedies function. Terrible people turn up, ruin the usually the young lovers' lives, and they are hopefully removed from the picture by the end of the play, and everybody gets together and lives happily ever after, depending on your definition of happily ever after. We'll get to that problem later. I'll go to Lynn, and then I'll go to Sue.
I kind of hope that Lodovico falls in love with somebody, but in the course of this play, because he's so cynical about it. It's like, well, if you act like you really like her, she's going to reject you. You have to be cavalier about it, or basically.
I think you've got to play it cool, man.
Yeah. And the thing is, Emilia evidently already likes him. She already wants him. But evidently her cousin is like, you're going about it all wrong. It's like, if I'm never gonna fall in love hard enough that like drinking food will get me out of it. We'll see. I kind of hope he falls in love with Franceschina, who's like the other candidate for that.
Who's going to end up with whom, or will they all become nuns? Find out later. Sue, then Lois.
Oh, actually, I like Ludovico because I like these sort of audacious ways of wooing. But what I was going to say was just a simple thing. I just love that line about piles of logs and piles of stones. Wow, that's just brilliant. That sentence. She likens this marriage market to just completely a pile of logs. Just a great image.
Lois.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that I think, knowing Chapman, that all that stuff about what you've got to do to get women to love you is probably out of Ovid. He's probably quoting from The Art of Love or something like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a little bit of learning being stirred into the pot. I wouldn't be surprised with Chapman. It's not unknown. Okay. Any other thoughts before we dive into the next scene? We've only done one scene. Quite a lot of text. Okay, Alan is in the room. Welcome, Alan, who is our Quintiliano. Can we hear you?
1, 2, 3, testing.
Excellent. Then we can dive into Act 1, Scene 2. Enter Quintiliano, Innocentio, Franceschina, Angelo, and Fannio.
Thou shalt not to the wars, or if thou dost, I'll bear thee company. Dear Quint, do not offer to forsake me.
Oh, hands off, wife. Hang not upon me thus. How can I maintain thee but by using my valour? And how can I use that but in action and employment? Go in, play at cards with your cousin Angelo here, and let it suffice I love thee.
Come, sweet cousin, do not cloy your husband with your love so, especially to hinder his preferment. Who shall the Duke have to employ in these martial necessities, if not Captain Quintiliano? He bears an honourable mind, and 'tis pity, but he should have employment. Let him get a company now, and he will be able to maintain you like a duchess hereafter.
Well said, Signor Angelo. God save me. You speak like a true cousin indeed. Does he not, Quintiliano?
That's so, and I thank him. See how the finger puts finger in the eye still.
I'll cheer her up, I warrant you, Captain. Come, cuz, let's sing to tables.
Farewell, sweet mistress.
Who's Franceschina?
What? I don't know. Thou shalt not to the war. Oh, farewell, my good servant.
Now take away thy hand and show thou didst laugh all this while. Good Lord, who would not marry to have so kind a wife make much on him?
Exit Angelo with Franceschina.
Boy, give your attendance.
Did you not spare me money for mine hostess where you put me to board? You're a whole fortnight in arrears.
Didn't I say? The hostess of the Lion has a leg like a giant. What for nothing, boy. So she scored truly.
Faith, sir, she's chalked up 20 shillings already, and so she will chalk no more.
Then let her choke, and choke thou with her. Blood hobby horse, and she had chalked up £20. I hope the world knows I am able to pay it with a wet finger.
Alas, sir, I think you're able, but the world does not know it.
Then the world's an ignorant, sir, and you are an innocent. Vanish, boy, away!
I hope you'll foist some money for my score out of this gull here.
Exit
Tis
Fannio.
tis a plaguey good wag, Quintiliano, is it not?
I'll make him a good one ere I've done with him. This same loving fool, my wife now, will never leave weeping till I make her believe I will not have a company. Who would be cumbered with these soft-hearted creatures that are ever in extremes, either too kind or too unkind?
Save me, 'tis true, 'tis a hard thing must please 'em in sadness.
Damn me if I do not pity her with my heart. Plague on her kindness, she has half persuaded me to take no company.
Nay, sweet quaint, shall I be a lieutenant?
Well, and my promise were not passed to thee. I'm a villain if all the world should part Frank and me. Think I love thee, therefore, and will do thee credit. It will cost me a great deal of this same foolish money to buy me drum and ensign, and furnish me thoroughly. But the best is, I know my credit.
Stop, quaint. We'll want no money, Anne. I'll make my row of houses fly first.
Let 'em walk, let 'em walk. Candle rents. The wars hold, or a plague come to the town, they'll be worth nothing.
True, or while I am beyond sea, some sleepy wench may set fire in the bedroom.
Right, or there may come an earthquake and o'erturn them.
Just, or they may be conjuring and the wind may drown them.
Or some crafty pettifogger will find a hole in the title. 1,000 casualties belongs to 'em.
Nay, they shall walk, that's certain. I'll turn them into money.
That's the most husbandly course, if ace boy. Thou mayst have 20 in the 100 for thy life. I'll be thy man for 200.
Wilt, i' faith, quaint? God save me, 'tis done.
Your life, not otherwise.
Well, I desire no more, so you'll remember me for my lieutenantship.
Remember thee? 'Tis thine already, boy. £100 shall not buy it from thee. Give me thy hand. I do here create thee Lieutenant Innocentio.
If you have a company, Captain.
If I have, damn me if such another word do not make me put thee out of place. Again, I have a company? Let the Duke deny me one. I would 'twere come to that once, that employment should go with the undeserver, while men of service sit at home and feed their anger with the blood of red lattices. The Duke deny me today, I'll renounce him tomorrow. I'll with the enemy point blank. I'm a villain else.
And I, by heaven, I swear.
Well, if that day come, it will prove a hot day with somebody.
But, Captain, did you not say that you would enter me at an ordinary, that I might learn to conserve?
When thou wilt, Lieutenant. No better time than now, for thou art in good clothes, which is the most material point for thy entrance there.
Aye, but how should I behave myself?
Marry, sir, when you come first in, you shall see a crew of gallants of all sorts.
Nay, Captain, if I come first in, I shall see nobody.
Tush, man, you must not do so. If you have good clothes and will be noted, let them all come in afore you, and then, as I said, you shall see a lusty crew of gallants. Some gentlemen, some none, but that's all one. He that bears himself like a gentleman is worthy to have been born a gentleman. Some aged have beards, and some have none. Some have money, and some have none. Yet all must have meat. Now will all these, I say, at your first entrance, wonder at you as at some strange owl. Examine your person and observe your bearing for a time. Do you then, on the other side, seem to neglect their observant at first? Let your countenance be proof against all eyes, not yielding or confessing in it any inward defect. In a word, be impudent enough, for that's your chief virtue of society.
Is that? Faith, I need not learn that. I have that by nature, I thank God.
So much the better, for nature is far above art or judgment. Now, for your behaviour, let it be free and negligent, not clogged with ceremony or observance. Give no man honour but upon equal terms. Look how much thou givest any man above that, so much thou takest from thyself. He that will once give the wool shall be quickly thrust into the kennel. Reassure not thy carriage by any man's eye, thy speech by no man's ear, but be resolute and confident in doing and saying. And this is the grace of a right gentleman, as thou art.
But that I am, I hope. I am sure my father has been twice warden on's company.
That's not a peer matter, man. There's no prescription for gentility but good clothes and impudence. For your place, take it as it falls, but so as you think no place too good for you. Fall to without ceremony, whatever the company be, and be as near as you can when they are in their mutton. Be thou in thy woodcock, shows resolution. Talk anything, thou carest not what, so it be without offence, and as near as thou canst, without sex.
Let me alone for that, Captain, I warrant you.
If you chance to tell a lie, you must bind it with some oath, as by this bread. The bread's a binder, you know.
True.
And yet take heed you swear by no man's bread but your own, for that may breed a quarrel. Above all things, you must carry no coals.
By heaven, not I. I'll freeze to death first.
Well, sir, one point more I must remember you of. After dinner there will be play, and if you will be counted complete, you must venture amongst them. For otherwise they'll take you for a scholar or a poet, and so fall into contempt of you. For it's no virtue that can escape the account of baseness if it get money, but gaming and law. Yet you must not lose much money at once. That argues little wit at all times.
As God save me, and that's my fault. For if I be in once, I shall lose all I have about me.
Is it true, Lieutenant? My lady, sir, I'll be your moderator. Therefore, let me see how much money have you about you.
Not much. Some 20 mark or £20 in gold.
'Tis too much to lose, by my faith. Lieutenant, give me your purse, sir. Fortune, here's 2 brace of angels. You shall venture that for fashion's sake. I'll keep the rest for you till you have done play.
That will be all one. For when that's lost, I shall never leave it till I get the rest from you. For I know thou will let me have it if I ask it.
Not a penny by this gold.
Prithee, do not then, as God save me, and you do.
And I do, hang me. Come, let's the Duke.
And they exit. End of Act 1, probably mini interval. So, for anyone who wants to know what it's like to go to an ordinary, this is a little social history lesson that you could sort of unpack. Make a very good seminar, this, wouldn't it? You could basically break this down and use it as for various historical points. I suspect this is a scene that in performance one would ruthlessly cut down. There's some nice character work. There's a lot of nice detail in it. Is a bit too much of it. But there's a lot of good stuff in it, and the advantage with the scene that has too much in it is you can cut it, and you can decide what you want to do with it. And I think there's lots of options here. And yeah, Innocentio, I'll look after your money for you. Here's a couple of things to be going on with, but I'll keep the rest safe. You don't want to go into one of these places with lots of money. That someone might try and steal it from you. not me. I wouldn't steal your stuff. So yes, there's a little bit of plot moving forward at the very beginning, and then basically we have this sort of set piece scene between these two characters. And I say it's very interesting, and I think a very good acting exercise. I'd quite like to actually get two actors in the room to really play around with that and dig into it and see what the potential is. But I think in practice, it's going to be half as long, at least by the time we finish with it. Lynn?
I was going to say the same thing about the opening scene with what's his name, who's trying to seduce Franceschina. It's longer than it needs to be. So I think I see a theme here. And this is all about the swagger. That was, I think, Angelo's advice to the other guy whose name begins with L, to the guy that's trying to seduce his cousin, is like, no, it's the other couple. I'd like to Aurelio, like pretend you don't really like her that much. That's how to, be confident. And Innocentio's getting the same advice here, like swagger and good clothes. It's all about appearances. It's just, yeah. So we have these people advising their friends to have basically kind of false confidence. And I wonder if this play is going to end up being a critique of that ethic.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, this is it's not quite a humorous play in the same way as we had, a few years earlier to this. But there's a lot of that kind of social critique, social satire going on within it. It's just less overtly, here is a character, here is a character, here is a character. We have characters who are much more human beings who are being satirized, but they feel like they function as actual people in a slightly more less schematic way. I think there's a sort of finessing of the edges. Other thoughts before we dive into Act 2? Irene?
It seems that a lot of these characters are sort of standard characters, sort of maybe coming out of Commedia dell'arte, the old man who thinks he's, the soldier, the innocent, so it's reminding me a lot of those kind of plays. We've seen characters like these in other plays from the period and beyond.
Yeah, I mean it's commedia, but also just straightforward Latin comedy, drama, which I would have thought Chapman is probably reasonably well versed in as well. And the nature of the influence of commedia dell'arte is slightly difficult to assess at this point because there are sort of different competing narratives as to how influential they may or may not be. With certainly within England, I don't know within Chapman's oeuvre. Lois.
I was thinking also of the Roman satire. I mean, an awful lot of this. It's also a bit like some of Donne's satires, which just describe sort of behavior of young men about town. That seems to be the sort of thing that's going on here. I think Chapman seems to have wanted to produce something that derived from traditional comedy, that kind of obeyed the laws of comedy.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we dive into Act 2? No. Okay, let's. We've got a lot of setup. We've got a lot of character setup. We've got some hairs are running. Let's see whether there are some more complications to be added to the mix. Act 2, Scene 1. Enter Lucretia and Temperance several ways.
Nay, mistress, pray go in again, for I have some inward news for you.
What are those, pray?
'Tis no matter, mistress, till you come in, but make much a time in the meantime. Good fortune thrusts herself upon you in the likeness of a fine young gentleman. Hold up your apron and receive him while you may, a God's name.
I'll say by that, you are a very wise counselor.
Well, mistress, when I was a maid, and that's a good while ago, I can tell you.
I think very well.
You were but a little one then, I wis.
Nor you neither, I believe.
Faith, it's one of the furthest things I can remember.
But what when you were a maid?
Marry, mistress, I took my time, I warrant you. And there's Signor Leonoro now, the very flower of Venice, and one that loves you dearly, I assure you.
God forgive him if he do, for I'll be sworn I never deserved his love, nor never will, while I live.
Why then, what say to Signor Collatine? There's a dainty piece of venison for you, and a fervent lover indeed.
He? I dare say he knows not what wood love shafts are made of. His signory would think it the deepest disparagement could be done to him, to say that ever he spent a sigh for any dame in Italy.
Well, you have a whole brown dozen of suitors at least, I'm sure. Take your choice amongst them all. If you love not all, yet you may love 3 or 4 of them to be doing withal.
To be doing withal? Love 3 or 4?
Why not? So you love 'em moderately. But must that strange maid piece, Theogenes, that you cry out upon so often, have all from mother? And yet you know not where he is.
O my Theogene, not Theogenes, thy love hath turned me woman like thyself. Shall thy sight never turn me man again? Come, let's to the minister. God hear my prayers, as I intend to stop mine ears against all my suitors.
Well, mistress, yet peradventure they may make you open afore the priest have a penny for you.
And they exit. A short little scene that bounces along, but yeah, it kind of feels like it's referring to plot things that we haven't been fully clued in on. Rachel, did you want?
I think that last speech of Lucretia's is an aside, because I think it's revealing information that Temperance may not know.
Aside? Question mark. Yeah, so there's someone there. All sorts of interesting.
That looks
questions.
like a really weird bit of plotting. Thy love hath turned me woman like thyself. Shall thy sight never turn me man again? Have we got a bit of cross-dressing here?
Maybe. I don't know.
Possibly.
I don't know. Sarah, then Alan.
Yeah, I would like to bet that Lucretia is actually like, I don't know, Romeo. No, I won't say that name. I don't know, Piero or somebody. That's the dude in drag, and Theogene is his long lost love. I've no idea what. But he's off seeking her, and she's probably going to be in the play as well, disguised as a dude. It's like we've been here before.
We've been here before in the future as well. So it's fairly recently, in fact. So this is random clustering, by the way. This isn't a planned schedule of this kind of plot reveal. It just seems to be happening at the moment. That feels plausible if that's what that little mini speechette is doing there. So. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that with the boys' company, this kind of gag is easier to do as well, because it's like everybody. Yeah, it's just Are
we back with the hermaphrodite in the Villa Borghese, Robert?
Well,
it's not seen. I mean, it was general in Roman times. It was part of all sorts of myths and everything, isn't it?
So let's find out what's going on there. Maybe we'll find out more in the next scene. Maybe we won't. Lots of short scenes coming up. Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Lodovico. Sorry, I didn't go to Alan.
Yeah, the one that jumped out at me was that phrase "brown dozen," which I just wondered whether that ought to be round dozen, which would make some sort of sense. But brown dozen makes no logical sense to me at this stage.
I'm resistant to the idea that it's automatically a typo. I suspect it's just obscure, but it might be. I don't have textual authority on this one of any edition that I can leap to, so I cannot say. Lois.
Something that rather puzzles me is that Temperance doesn't seem to be aware that she's talking to a man in drag. I mean, she's mistress they've known each other for years. So what's going on here?
It's the long game, playing the long game.
Really long.
But of course, none of them existed half an hour prior to the play starting. So, it's not that long ago, really. Okay, Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Lodovico and Emilia.
Here's a coil to make wit and women friends. Come hither, wench, let me have thee single. Now sit thee down, and hear good counsel next thy heart, and God give thee grace to lay it to thy heart.
Fie, cousin. Will this wild tongue of yours never receive the bridle?
Yes, thou shalt now see me stroke my beard and speak sententiously. Thou tell'st me thy little father is in hand with a great rich marriage for thee, would have thee commit matrimony with old Gasparo. Art thou willing with it?
I rather wish myself married to 1,000 deaths.
Then I perceive thou know'st him not. Did he never woo thee?
I protest, I never changed 3 words with him in my life. He hath once or twice wooed my father for me, but never me.
Why, that's the reason thou lovest him not, because thou takest in none of his valiant breath to inflame thee, nor vouchsafest his knowledge. I'll tell thee what he is. An old, sapless trunk, fit to make touchwood of, hollow and bald like a blasted oak, on whose top ravens sit and croak the portents of funerals. One that anoints his nose with clouted cream and pomatum. His breath smells like the butt end of a shoemaker's horn, a leprous scaly hide like an elephant, the son of a sow-gelder that came to town, as I have heard thy father himself say, in a tattered russet coat, high shoes, and yet his hose torn above him, a long pike staff in his neck, and a turd in his teeth, and a wallet on his right shoulder. And now the cullion hath with noverant universi eaten up some 100 gentlemen. He must needs rise a gentleman, as 'twere out of their ashes, or disparage a gentlewoman and makes it himself a gentleman, at least by the wife's side.
The worst my fortune to be entangled with such a winding bramble.
Entangled? Nay, if I thought 'twould ever come to that, I'd hire some shag-rag or other for half a check-ween to cut's throat, only to save thy hands from doing it, for I know thou wouldst poison him within 1 month. Love thee he will never, and that must be thy happiness. For if he do look to be cooped up like a prisoner condemned to execution, scarce suffered to take the air so much as at a window, or waited on continually by an old beldame, not to keep thee company, but to keep thee from company, thy pockets searched, thy cabinets ransacked for letters, ever in opposition, unless, like the moon, once a month in conjunction, wealth thou mayest have indeed, but enjoy it as in a dream. For when thou wakest, thou shalt find nothing in thy hand.
Gasparo passes over the stage.
And to keep my tale in goodness, see how all the ill that can be spoken of him is expressed in his presence.
Oh, ugly and monstrous spectacle.
Now, tell me whether thou wouldst make choice of him, or a young gallant in prime of his choiceness, one that for birth, person, and good parts might meritoriously marry a countess, and one to whom his soul is not so dear as thyself.
Enter Aurelio.
For all the world, such another as he that comes here now. Mark him well, see whether Gasparo and he be not a little different.
Exit Emilia.
How now? Zoons, Aurelio, stay, beast, wilt thou make such a blessed opportunity? Curse thee. I'll fetch her out to thee.
Exit Lodovico.
Wretch that I am, how she loathes me! If I abide her, I shall consume in the lightnings from her anger.
Exit Aurelio, and round they go. Where they stop, nobody knows. Let's go straight into Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Lodovico with Emilia.
Here's a life indeed. What's he gone? Passion of death, what a babe 'tis. I could find in my heart to jerk him, but temper me. Friendship, no remedy now. Now, wit, turn his defects to perfection. Why, 'cause he's quite out of sight. By my life, I commend him. Why, this is done like thyself, or Aurelio. Were she the queen of love and would run from thee, fly thou from her. Why, now I love thee, for I see thou art worthy of my love. Thou carriest the respect to thine own worth, and wilt express it with spirit. I dare say thou lookst to have had him fall on his knees and adored thee, or beg his life at thy hands, or else turn Queen Dido and pierce his tender heart with sword full sharp. No, faith, wench, the case is altered. Love made Hercules spin, but made him rage after. There must go time to the bridling of every passion. I hope my friend will not love a wench against her will. If she would have met his kindness halfway, so if she skit and recoil, he shoots her off warily, and away he goes. Ay, marry, sir, this was a gentlemanly part indeed. Farewell, coz. Be thou free in thy choice too, and take a better, and thou canst, a God's name.
And a Lodovico makes to go.
Nay, dear coz, a word.
A word? What's the matter? I must needs after him and clap him on the back. This spirit must be cherished.
Alas, what would you wish me to do?
Why, nothing.
Would you counsel me to marry him against my father's will?
Not for the world. Leave him, leave him, leave him. You see, he's resolved he'll take no harm on you. Never fear to imbrue your hands with his liver, I warrant you.
Come, you are such another.
This same riches with a husband is the only thing in the world, I protest. Good Gasparo, I'm sorry I've abused thee, if faith, for my cousin's sake. How prettily the wretch came crawling by, with his crooked knees even now. I've seen a young gentlewoman live as merry a life with an old man as with the proudest young upstart on 'em all. Farewell, coz, I'm glad thou art so wise, if faith.
If you go, I die. Fie on this affection. It ringeth with suppression. Good coz, I am no longer able to continue it. I love Aurelio better than it is possible for him to love me.
Away, away. And could not this have been done at first, without all these superfluous disgracings? Ugh, the same unhearty niceness of women is good for nothing but to keep their huswife hands still occupied in this warp of dissembling. Well, wench, redeem thy faults, and write a kind letter to him presently, before this resolution of his take too deep root in him.
Nay, sweet coz, make me not so immodest to write so suddenly. Let me have a little time to think upon it.
Think me on nothing till you write. Think as you write, and then you shall be sure to write as you think. Women do best when they least think on't.
But rather than write, I will meet him at your pleasure.
Meet him? Dost thou think that I shall ever draw him again to meet thee, that rushed from thee even now with so just a displeasure?
Nay, good coz, urge not my offence so bitterly. Our next meeting shall pay the forfeit of all faults.
Well, thou art my pretty coz, and I'll do my best to bring him to thee again. If I cannot, I shall be sorry, if faith, thou wert so injuriously strange to him. But where shall this interview be now?
There is the mischief, and we shall hardly avoid it. My father plies my haunts so closely, and uses means by our maid to entrap us, so that this terrace at our back gate is the only place we may safely meet at, from whence I can stand and talk to you. But, sweet coz, you shall swear to keep this my kindness from Aurelio, and not intimate by any means that I am anything acquainted with his coming.
This life, dost thou think I am an ass? What end should I tell him? He and I'll come wandering that way to take the air or so, and I'll discover thee.
By mere chance, as 'twere.
By chance, by chance. And you shall at no hand see him at first, when I bring him, for all this kindness you bear him.
By no means, coz.
Very good. And if you endure any conference with him, let it be very little, and as near as you can. Turn to your former strangeness in any case.
If I do not, coz, trust me not.
Or if you think good, you may flirt away again as soon as you see him, and never let your late fault be any warning to ye.
I will do all this, I warrant thee, coz.
Win you so, cousin fool? Canst thou be brought to that silly humor again by any persuasions? By God's Lord, and you be strange again, more than needs must, for a temperate modesty. I'll break's neck down from thee, but he shall do as he did to thee.
Now fie upon you, coz, what a fool do you make me?
Well, dame, leave your superfluous nicety in earnest, and within this hour, I will bring him to your terrace.
But good coz, if you chance to see my chamber window open, that is upon the terrace, do not let him come in and it in any case.
Blood, how can he? Can he come over the wall, thinks?
Oh, sir, you men have not devices with ladders of ropes to scale such walls at your pleasure and abuse us poor wenches.
Now a plague of your simplicity. Would you discourage him with prompting him? Well, dame, I'll provide for you.
As you love me, coz, no words of any kindness from me to him.
Go to, no more ado.
And exit Lodovico and Emilia. And yes, so some fun stuff going on here. I'm really getting these really need to be teenagers. They really are. It's like, look, don't tell him I like him. Just make it look natural, and it'll be cool, and I'll just happen to be here, and it'll be fine, and and it's just tell each other. Just don't make this so complicated. It's just far too complicated. Alan, then Lynn.
Yeah, I'm reminded of Helen's description of some plays we've done previously of run away very slowly.
Slowly.
Well, it's not so much as you say. It's just that thing of that awkwardness of I've never talked to him, but I'm so into him, and it's just like this isn't open for disaster at all. But hey, Lynn.
Yeah, like anything but tell the truth seems to be what's going on here repeatedly. Like, yeah, everyone is so so deceptive and like so duplicitous. Like,
this one, it's not so much that I think it's duplicity. It is that thing of just trying to arrange a circumstance, and and it's just like, it just feels very teenage. That it doesn't feel as bad. It's not like the older male figures who are just duplicitous in a very knowing way. This is more just don't make your life so complicated for yourself. You don't need to do any of this. Lois.
Yeah, we've had this before, though I can't remember which play, but all of this arranging by pretending not to arrange, by all means, don't tell him that my window gives out onto this terrace, and I can't imagine you men are these awful things like ladders to climb over walls. I hope you don't have anything like that around, just making it really clear what he's supposed to do.
Yes, please organise your siege engines now. It would be very, very, very helpful. It's a nice tight two-hander. There's I would say tight. There is room for tweaking and cutting, but again, it feels like a very good two actors on stage exercise. It feels there's a lot of play to be had with that. Lodovico does talk a lot, though, in this play. I mean, I was saying before we started, you need a lot of actors to read this play, but actually, the number of people who speak is actually relatively narrow. There's some people who just hog the stage rather a lot. Mark.
Yeah, and even reading it cold, Lodovico has some fun stuff, but I think it would be really fun to actually be able to work with it, because he does a lot of misdirects with his rhetoric and his speaking, and that can only come through so obviously to the person who's actually reading it when I don't know where this is going. But even doing that cold, it's fun. It's fun stuff, and being able to insult Gasparo is also fun.
And Emilia again feels like there's a good bounce to this, that you know what to do with Emilia it's saying you can play. Right, we have one more short scene, and then we have a massive scene, which we'll see whether we get all the way through. Act 2, Scene 4. Enter Leonoro, Lionello, and Temperance.
God ye good morrow, sir. Truly, I have not heard a sweeter breath than your page has.
I'm glad you like him, Mistress Temperance.
And how do ye, sir?
That must I know of you, lady. My welfare depends wholly upon your good speed.
How say, sir? And by my soul, I was coming for you in the morning when your young man came to me. I pray, let him put on, unless it be for your pleasure.
He is young and can endure the cold well enough, bareheaded.
A pretty sweet child 'tis, I promise you.
But what good news, Mistress Temperance? Will your mistress be won to our kind meeting?
Faith, I'll tell you, sir. I took her in a good mood this morning and broke with her about you, and she was very pleasant, as she will be many times.
Very well, and is there any hope of speed?
No, by my troth, gentlemen, none in the world. An obstacle young thing it is, as I broke with all in my life. I have broke with 100 in my days, though I say it, yet never met her comparison.
Are all my hopes come to this, Mistress Temperance?
It is no matter, sir. 'Tis the first time that ever I spake to any in these matters, and it shall be the last, God willing.
And even now she had broke with 100 and 100?
But do you love her, sir? Indeed?
Dost thou make question of that?
Pardon me, I pray, sir. I mean, do you love her as a gentleman ought to do? That is, to consummate matrimony with her, as they say?
That's no matter to you, Mistress Temperance. Do you procure our meeting, and let my favor be at her hands as I can enforce it.
You say like an honest gentleman. A woman can have no more, and faith, sir, I wish you well. And every day after dinner, my mistress uses to go to her chair, or else lie down upon her bed to take a nap or so, to avoid idleness, as many good hussies do, you know. And then do I sit by her, and so, or so, and when I see her fast asleep, Lord, do I think to myself, as you know, we waiting women have many light thoughts in our heads. Now, if I were a man, and should bear my mistress an ill will, what might I do to her now?
Indeed, then, you have a very good opportunity.
The best that may be, for she sleeps like a suckling pig. You may jog her 100 times, and she'll stir no more than one of your stones here.
And could you put a friend in your place, think you?
Nay, by'r lady, sir, back with that leg, for if anything come on't but well, all the burden will lie upon me.
Sorry. Why, what can come of it? Only by this means may I solicit her love myself.
Aye, but who knows if the devil, God bless us, should be great for ye, how ye would use her.
What, dost thou take me for a beast, to force her that I would make my wife?
A beast, sir? Nay, there's no beastliness in it neither, for a man will show like a man in these cases. And besides, you may mar the bed, which everybody will see that comes in, and that I would not for the best gown I shall wear this 12-month.
Well, to put thee out of that fear, it shall be worth such a gown to thee.
Oh, I thank you for that, sir. But that's all one. And thus, sir, my old master Honorio at 2 o'clock will be at tilting, and then will his son, Signor Aurelio, and his man, Angelo, be abroad. At which hour, if you will be at the back gate and muffle yourself handsomely, you may linger there till I call you.
Ay, marry, sir, so I may be there long enough.
Nay, but 2 o'clock now. Now is my hour, sir.
Very well. And till then, farewell.
Boy, to you heartily.
Boy, to him. Indeed, if he knew all.
And exit. Yes, Lionello, who's been there the whole time, has one line to close the scene. It's just like it's in a scene with Leonoro. It's just like yeah.
Do you think they're playing cards in the background or something? They're having that sort of, that is a tete-a-tete with those.
Well, it's a plot. It's a plotting session.
Yeah.
Temperance isn't awfully nice about her mistress here. It's just like, yeah, she sleeps like a log. You could set up a nuclear bomb next to her. It wouldn't wake her up. It's just like, whoa, Show some respect. But then you don't know how much Leonoro is paid, because there does seem to. I feel like Leonoro is just constantly adding coins to a pile, just so we couldn't do that. How about another coin? Well, we could arrange it. It feels like there is business again potentially here that we don't actually have in the script. That there is an arrangement being slowly padded out with a witness in the back, who's the boy standing in the background doing whatever boys do.
Playing with conkers.
Absolutely, yes. I'm sure that's exactly what the boy's doing. Other thoughts from the room? We have encountered Temperance before, but we haven't really. We've certainly not encountered the other two before. So yeah, things being, and this is an extra sort of plates being spun. I'm starting to feel there are a lot of plates starting to be spun here, and I'm not quite sure where they're all going and how they all and I've slightly forgotten how everyone's related to each other. It's now getting a bit confusing. Not necessarily disastrously so, but it's starting to feel like, you're going to need a firm hand on the dramaturgy to know who everyone is and who they're related to going into the production, because otherwise your audience won't stand a chance. So it's very important to know who is related to who, visually signify that clearly at certain times in the play, as well as what the player is giving us. But that scene, very short. Very short. It's like we have sometimes scenes where they're giving actors a lot to do, and the scenes where it's like, no, we'll just do the scene and move it on. And it's interesting, those mix. Is it because they don't trust certain actors in the company, or that certain actors really want to do a very lengthy two-hander? Discuss, Lois.
The whole thing goes so fast. I mean, it's almost more like a ballet or some sort of musical piece where people just come on and do their thing and go off, and they just keep coming round. And maybe the point is that nobody does have the faintest idea who all these people are, or who's after whom.
Yes, it's like we had that mini scene before the scene with Emilia and talking about love, where we had this sort of set-up scene of going, I can't talk to her, no, he can't talk to me, and they all flit away. But then we have quite a lengthy little scene when we're in the moment. So it does seem to be mixing up the paces a bit more in this act, and playing around a bit. Mark, are you waving? No, you're just lounging. That's very Lynn.
Yeah, I'm not like the rapiness of this really bothers me. Yeah. I mean, he says, "Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I intend to marry her," but I don't know if
he's paying for access to her bedchamber. I mean, this is dodgy stuff. Eric.
Well, also we've had this in another play, but I think that play must be after this one, because the Antiquary was kind of by Shakali Marmion. No, please correct me.
Shakali Marmion. Say the name. Enjoy saying the name. The name is just like the best thing.
Yeah, and it has a lot of similar, aside from like the character names and plot things about Aurelio and Emilia. In that play, you've got someone who's in love with someone, and she ends up hating him, and he ends up marrying her just by coming out of her bedroom and telling people that they're married. So she has by ruining her reputation. So yeah. There's a part of going, is that where this is going? Because it seems like the sort of thing that Marmion would have stolen from this kind of play. And it would make sense in this kind of play, but I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yes, it's one of those things about reading plays out of order. It does feel like this could be very much a source for Shakali Marmion's play, because he was prone to lift things from various sources, and yeah, especially just simply that almost all of the names from this play are lifted and used in the Antiquary. It feels like less of a coincidence, though. So the plot elements are not quite so distinct as that. Susan, then we'll move on.
I hadn't really realised until this recent being in Italy that so many of these young women that went into monastery became nuns. You know, the children of the young women, if in doubt, get to a nunnery. They did. a lot. I don't think this happened in Britain, and maybe these writers didn't know this as much, but really was a serious option for young women who'd got a bit sick of this.
Yes, less so in England after the 1530s, but a viable prior to then, and continuing in the continent. Okay, we're not going to. Well, I don't know. We'll get a certain way into Act 2, Scene 5, which is where we're going. We're probably not going to get through all of it because I haven't actually planned for us to get through all of it, which means I'd have to start randomly throwing parts at people, and I'll get confused. But we can certainly get about halfway through this quite chunky scene before we stop and sort of take a breather and see where we are. So let's have a little look at Act 2, Scene 5. Enter Lodovico and Aurelio.
I've provided thee a ladder of ropes, therefore resolve to meet her. Go, wash thy face, and prepare thyself to die. I'll go make ready the ladder.
But when is the happy hour of our meeting?
Marry, sir, that's something uncertain, for it depends wholly upon her father's absence, and when that will be, God knows. But I doubt not it will happen once within this 12-month.
Zoons, a 12-month.
Nay, hark you, you're all upon the spur now, but how many lovers have served 7 12-month apprenticeships for the freedom of their mistress' favors? Notwithstanding, to shorten your torments, your man Angelo must be the mean to draw the lapwing her father from his nest by this device that I tell you.
Enter Angelo.
I did ever dream that once in my life good fortune would warm her cold hand in my naked bosom, and that once is now come. I'll lay hold upon it, i'faith. I have you, my little squire. I have you upon my anvil, upon which I will mallet you and work you, coining crowns, chequines, bracelets, and whatnot out of you, for procuring you the dear gullage of my sweetheart, Mistress Franceschina.
I'm glad it rests in my kind servant Angelo. Angelo, well met, it lies in thee now. Make me no more thy master, but thy friend, and forever happy in thy friendship.
In what part of me does that lie, sir, that I may pull it out for you presently?
My friend Lodovico here hath told me what thou revealest to him today, touching his uncle Lorenzo and his love suit to Franceschina.
Slight, I told it him in secret, sir.
And so did I tell it to him, Angelo. I'm a Jew else.
It may well be, sir, but what of that?
This, Angelo. He would have thee procure my old uncle's absence from home this afternoon, by making him meet, or pretending his meeting, with his mistress and thy sweetheart, Franceschina.
Which if thou dost, Angelo, be sure of reward to thy wishes.
What talk you of rewards, sir? To the loving and dutiful servant, 'tis a greater encouragement to be his service, to hear his master say, God a mercy, Angelo, spy out, Angelo. I'll think of thy pains one day, Angelo, than all your base rewards and preferments. Yet, not to hinder your hands, sir, I will extend mine to his service presently, and get your old uncle, Signor Lorenzo, out of the way long enough, I warrant you.
'Tis honestly said, which, when thou hast performed, inform us.
Exeunt Lodovico and Aurelio.
I will not fail, sir. I was resolved to make him away afore they spake to me, in procuring his access to Franceschina. For what is his presence at her house but his absence at his own's? And thus shall I with one trowel daub 2 walls.
Enter Franceschina.
See how fitly she meets me. I will stand close here, as if it were in my shop of good fortune, and, in respect of all ornaments I can help her to, I will, out of the fullness of my joy, put her out of her study and encounter her thus. D'ye lack, gentlewoman, d'ye lack? Very fair new gowns, kirtles, petticoats, wrought smocks, bracelets, do ye lack, gentlewoman? Do ye lack?
Holds up bracelets. I suspect we have a muting situation going on here.
What means my love by these strange salutations?
Prithee, ask me no questions. Hold, take these bracelets, put up this purse of gold quickly, and if thou wilt have any of these things I have cried to thee, speak, and 'tis performed.
From whose treasury comes all this, I prithee?
Lorenzo, a gentleman of much antiquity, and one that for his love hath burned hundreds of hearts to powder. Yet now it falls out of his tree of life, but now it falls out that his tree of life is scorched and blasted with the flames of thy beauty, ready to wither eternally, unless it be speedily comforted with the sweet drops of thy nose.
God's my life, is that old squire so amorous?
Oh, you wrong him to term him old. He can draw his bow, ride his horse, use his sword, and trail his pike under love's colours as well as he ever did.
I believe that easily.
Well, go thy ways in, and prepare to entertain him, now thy husband is from home, only with good words and best kindnesses, making him put all into deeds till his drudgery be deedless.
You speak as if I had nothing to respect but his entertainment, when you know how close and timely it must be to put in execution, considering with what envious eyes my neighbours survey me.
Thou I consider not all this. He shall come in disguised, wench, and do thou devise for our mirth what ridiculous disguise he shall come in, and he shall assume it.
What, a magnifico of the city, and one of the senate? Thinkest thou he will not see into that inconvenience?
No more than no, senator, for in this case my assurance is that Cupid will take the scarf from his own eyes and hoodwink the old buzzard, while two other true turtles enjoy their happiness. Get thee in, I beseech thee, love. Tell thy gold and say thy prayers.
Enter Lorenzo as exit Franceschina.
Now for a far-fetched device to fetch over my love squire. I see him within earshot. Well, beauty may inflame others, riches may tempt others, but for me, mine ears and mine eyes are proof against all the sirens and ministers in all the seas of the world. Beauty is a whore, riches a bawd, and I'll trust none on you.
What ails poor Angelo?
Nay, Mistress Frank, if you prove disloyal once, farewell all constancy in women.
But how now, man? What's the matter?
Oh, sir, are you so near? I shall trust your experience in women the better while I live.
Prithee, why so?
Say true, sir. Did you never solicit your love suit to fair Mistress Franceschina?
Never, I protest, Angelo.
Upon my life, 'tis a strange thing. I would have sworn all Italy could not so suddenly have fastened a favour upon her. I looked for a siege of Troy, at least, to surprise the turrets of her continents, but to yield at the first sight of her assailants' colours and before any cannon was mounted afore her, 'tis one of the loosest parts of a modest woman that I ever heard of.
What sayest thou? Did not I tell thee as much? Beware of an old colt while you live. He can tell when to strike, I warrant you.
Women and feathers now, fie on that affinity.
Alas, Angelo, a feeble generation, soon overcome. God knows, the honester mind, the sooner overcome.
God's my life, what light housewife would yield at first to a stranger? And yet does this whirligig stand upon terms of honour? Forsooth, tenders her reputation as the apple of her eye. She has a jealous and a cutting husband, envious neighbours, and will die many deaths, rather than by any friend's open access to her be whipped naked with the tongues of scandal and slander, and a whole sanctuary of such ceremonies.
Oh, she does worthily in that, Angelo, and like a woman of honour. Thou hast painted her perfection in her faults, thou find'st, and ticklest me with her appetite.
And to avoid all sight of your entrance, you must needs come in some disguise, she says. So much she tenders your high credit in the city and her own reputation, forsooth.
Oh, come in some disguise?
A toy, a very toy, which runs in her head with such curious feet, sir, because if there be any resemblances of your person seen to enter her house, your whole substantial self will be called in question. And any other man, she says, might better adventure with the least thing changed about them than you withal, as if you were the only noted mutton-monger in all the city.
Well, Angelo, heaven forgive us the sins of our youth.
That's true, sir. But for paltry disguise, being a magnifico, she shall go snick up.
Soft, good Angelo, soft. Let's think onto a little. What disguise would serve the turn, said she.
Faith, I know not what disguise she would have for you. She would have you come like a calf with a white face, I think. She talks of tinkers, peddlers, porters, chimney sweepers, fools, and physicians. Such a free egress and regress into men's houses without such suspicion.
Out upon him! She have me undergo the shame and hazard of one of those abjects?
Your faith, I told her so. A squire of that worship, one of the senate, a grave justicer, a man of wealth, a magnifico.
And yet, by my troth, for the safeguard of her honour, I would do much, methinks. Friar's weed were nothing.
Upon it, that disguise is worn threadbare upon every stage, and so much villainy committed under that habit that 'tis grown as suspicious as the vilest. If you will hearken to any, take such a transformance as you may be sure will keep you from discovery. Although it be the stale refuge of miserable poets by change of a hat or a cloak to alter the whole state of a comedy, so as the father must not know his own child, forsooth, nor the wife her husband, yet you must not think they do in earnest carry it away so. For say you were stuffed into a motley coat, crowded in the case of a base veil, or buttoned up in a cloak bag, even to your chin, yet, if I see your face, I am able to say, this is Signor Lorenzo. Therefore, unless your disguise be such that your face may bear as great a part in it as the rest is nothing.
Good reason, in faith, Angelo, and what shall I then besmirch my face like a chimney sweeper and wear the rest of his smokiness?
I'll tell you, sir, if you be so mad to condescend to the humour of a foolish woman by consideration that Jove for his love took on him the shape of a bull, which is far worse than a chimney sweeper, I can fit you rarely.
As how, I prithee?
There is one little snail, you know, an old chimney sweeper.
What, he that sings? Maids in your smocks, bold upon your locks.
The very same, sir, whose person, I borrowing his weeds, you will so lively resemble that himself in person cannot detect you.
But is that a fit resemblance to please a lover, Angelo?
For that, sir, she is provided. For you shall no sooner enter, but off goes your rusty scabbard. Sweet water is ready to scour your filthy face, milk and a bath of fern breaks for your fusty body, a chamber perfumed, a wrought shirt, nightcap, and a husband's gown, a banquet of oyster pies, potatoes, skirret roots, herring goes, and divers other whetstones of venery.
Oh, let me hug thee, Angelo.
A bed as soft as her hair, sheets as delicate as her skin, and as sweet as her breath, pillows imitating her breasts, and her breasts to boot, hippocras in her cups, and nectar in her lips. Ah, the gods have been beasts for less felicity.
No more, good Angelo, no more. How shall I requite the happiness thou wilt bring me to? Hast any mind of marriage?
Sir, but an extraordinary wife might tempt me.
By my troth, and she were not promised thou wouldst have my daughter. But come, let's to our disguise, in which I long to be singing.
And exit Lorenzo.
Follow you presently. Signor Lodovico.
Enter Lodovico and Giovanello.
How now, Angelo?
Why, sir, I am providing means to lead your old uncle out of the way as you willed me, by drawing him into the way of Quintiliano's wife, my sweetheart. And to make room for him by Quintiliano's room, you that lead him anyway must needs seek him out and employ him to some tavern.
He'll be with me presently, Angelo, and here's a freshman come from Padua whom I will powder with his acquaintance, and so make him an excellent morsel to relish his carouses.
And go to, sir. By this light you'll be complained on. There cannot be a fool within 20 mile of your head, but you engross him for your own mirth. Noblemen's tables cannot be served for you.
Sfoot, I'll complain of them, man. They hunt me out and hang upon me so that I cannot be rid of them. But they shall get somebody else to laugh at, or I'll turn him over to our poets and make all the world laugh at him.
Well, sir, here comes your man. Make him sure from his wife, and I'll make t'other sure with her.
Okay, and we'll pause there. That's as far as we're going to get because it all gets really complicated after that.
It gets complicated?
Well, in terms of people coming on stage. But in a sense, what we've got here is an incredibly long setup for can you wear a disguise and go to this person's door? Basically, that's what most of that scene was all about. It was basically, would you wear a disguise and go to this person's door, and then immediately, hey, can you distract this guy so that we can make? Yeah, it's like there's an awful lot of words to do very little, and a lot of those words are good. A lot of those words are quite nasty, but they are Angelo pitching to a not very nice guy the kind of stuff the not very nice guy wants. And so we've got an awful lot. Once again, we do not have the problem. We have too much material. This is fine. We just need to cut it. And I feel my instinct to the play so far is that this is the part of the play we need to cut the most because it's setting up stuff that will unravel later on in action and be much more busy. And we have been here before where the setup takes an awfully long time and we might lose the audience before they come back after the interval. So that's sort of the technical game that I suspect at this stage we will have with this play in terms of keeping the flow going, picking the best lines, depending on where the action goes. It may not get actually very active, but I suspect the action is going to now start ticking over because we've got an awful lot of setup. You're going to meet them, you're going to go there, you're going to dress up as a chimney sweep. I've got to be a bit careful about how much soot we put on the chimney sweep, but a teensy-weensy bit will be enough for the effect without going really horrific. Thoughts in the room? Too many notes, Mozart, so far. Lynn, then Susan.
Yeah, and I'm beginning to need a flow chart. Like, how many people are interested in Franceschina, and how many people is she interested in back? How many people are after Emilia? That just Aurelio is the one she loves and will probably end up with, and then Gasparo is the clown and mercenary, and we don't care about him.
We've got various women who are either married and or potentially bit cuckolding and or going to be married, and around them are orbiting people who are interfering in that in various ways. And then we got characters like Sarah's been reading, which is the go-between, the fixer, the person doing all the stuff, and random supernumeraries like the guy who's just walked in now who literally is said nothing, and he says, who's that guy? Oh, he's the guy we can do some drinking with. I think he actually gets some lines in a minute, but it is literally like, hello, I am here to advance the plot, and by standing here, who isn't really a person. Sue.
I don't like Chapman. I've gone off him. I don't think he trusts his actors. He's telling us what to do all the bloody time. Shackley Marmion didn't do that. I mean, if I saw that in a play, I think, oh, this writer wants to control everything. How about, the actors having an idea that, hey, how about making the characters say, I suppose I could dress up as a chimney sweep. That has much more energy and much more, he's a pedant.
Well,
Am I wrong, Lois?
Yeah,
I mean, has he written fabulous plays? I don't know any of his other plays.
Well, he's written lots of plays in different genres. I'll go to Lois in a second. I mean, just in terms of the game of that scene is very much we've got the fixer who is trying to persuade Lorenzo to do something he doesn't want to do, which is dress up as a chimney. So he doesn't want to do that. He wants to get obviously to Franceschina. So the game of the scene is persuading someone who doesn't want to do something that will then backfire anyway. I'm not sure that's the same thing as not trusting the actors.
There's been a number of scenes where one character is doing all the doing, and the other character goes, yeah. And this is the writer being a pedant and forcing the energy of the plot through in the way he wants to, instead of being even-handed. Even you notice that It's not even-handed, is it? What do other actors think?
I'll go to Lois, then I'll go to Eric.
Yeah, well, I think what you're objecting to is just that Lodovico is telling everybody what to do all the time and running the show. I don't know. I sort of see this, but when I've seen Edward's Boys, it's a bit like that. I mean, there are a lot of these very small parts, which in the Edward's Boys productions are generally played by very small boys who are obviously getting their first part in the play, and they're basically just sort of walking on or getting a couple of lines here and there, and then it all kind of builds up to one or two boys who are obviously star actors. I mean, like Nathan Field later on. I mean, people who actually did become very successful actors when they became adults. It just seems to me to be written like that. I don't find it terribly interesting. I don't. That's the only thing that worries me about trying to put it on. It just who could care about any of these people?
Well, I think I think there is a gradient to some degree, that some of these characters are more likable than others, but it partly depends on their outcome. As ever, we have this problem with comedies as to where do they end up by the end of the play. So long as the horrible people end up with something horrible happening to them, then we sort of find that satisfying. But if the bad things happen to the good people, which is often the problem we have, where that lands, Eric.
Well, I think it depends how you do it, 'cause I think it was in one of the other plays that we did where they were setting up a scam, and I think it was you who said it, that kind of you being Rob, that like the more detail you put into it, the more sort of people will believe it. Therefore, it's kind of the Angelo in this case is belaboring the point to Lorenzo so he can go, yeah, because this is totally what women want. We're just going to sort of get you to do this so they can do this and this and this and this. So I think it depends how you do it, but it depends also how much you cut.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt here that there's too much material. It's just too long. We are labouring what Lodovico and Angelo are doing in these scenes. They just have a lot of words. So they're quite nicely written words, but there's just too many of them. And the plot hasn't really kicked into gear yet. We've got a lot. We've spent the majority of the first two acts doing setup, but nothing has actually happened. We had exactly the same thing recently to say about The Antiquary. Nothing happened in the first two acts, and then it suddenly burst into life when all the comic hijinks started to actually start ticking off. And it's the question of, will Chapman tick off all those boxes once we actually get into the action, and whether we can dramaturg the shape of the show so that it's a bit more palatable to us with intervals, with a single interval, as opposed to one with 4 intervals rather, in a 5-act structure. Other thoughts before I go around the room for final thoughts? It's very early to tell, so I don't think we need to be definitive here. And the general note is, cut away, and we may find some things. I'm really interested in this as a series of acting exercises, though, or directing exercises, actually. What do you do to give some of these scenes a kick up the arse? I think some of them need that, and that's not an inherently interesting thing. Any other thoughts before I go in round the room? Okay, Sarah, any final thoughts? Well, my dog barks in the background.
No, not really. I don't. I thought what Sue says was really interesting, and I don't know if I agree with her or not. I do think there's something awry, and it might just be that there's too many words. But I am enjoying it. But I don't really feel qualified to give final thoughts on this session because I have only the haziest notion of what's going on. I mean, in terms of, I know what the basic plot is. That there's this, there's the old dude who's in love with Franceschina, and they're setting him up, and then there's a daughter, his daughter, and she's like, and there's this plot, and there's all that going on, but there seems to be a lot of extraneous stuff like orbiting the main plot, which I'm not entirely sure what it's about yet and how it's going to link in. So I really enjoyed reading Angelo today. I found him a very funny character, although I wasn't entirely sure what I was saying half the time. But there was a certain bounciness to his dialogue, which I enjoyed. But yeah, I can't really comment beyond that yet because I don't know where this is going, and I'm still a bit confused.
Yes, I think the confusion of actually really appreciating who everyone is related to. It's like Quintiliano. Is somebody's husband, and I'm not sure how clearly that's been put across to us, actually, because it's not like he's actually interacted with his wife directly on stage in a meaningful way to set up the relationships that people have. It's like people keep saying they're related to somebody else, but they don't actually appear in the same scene with the person they're related to, and so as an audience, I'm going, okay, intellectually, I'm following this, but I'm not following it in a way that is satisfying. And I think that's a big problem as well. Dumb show. I feel dumb show's coming on. lazy directorial flourish that is. Mark, you had a lot of words to say.
Yeah, Lodovico was fun to read. I kept worrying, especially early on, I kept worrying that he was edging into like super misogyny and like almost pickup artist style stuff, but it never so far has really gone that direction, and I was less worried about that as it went. Obviously there is some misogyny in some of his lines, but I feel like most of it is a matter of how you say it. He says something like woman is half a fool, but man makes her a whole fool, like God made her half a fool. But anyway, if he's saying that like compared to men, then that's bad. But like if he's just saying like overall he's insulting men and how they treat women in that one. But anyway, I feel like he's fun. Yeah, like many of us discussed, I feel like I need to see where it's going, where it ends up before I know how I feel about everything in general.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, similar. I mean, kind of the too soon to tell, but I'm kind of not enjoying it. Maybe I'm just being a little too stuck up. But I mean, the fact that everyone's so duplicitous and nobody just comes out and says, "I love you," kind of bothers me. And yes, too many words, definitely. And the other thing I think that's going to be challenging is that in order to make this work and not have people stop and think about it too much like I'm doing, it needs to be very pacey, but the language is really kind of hard to parse, and so you have to keep the pace up, but you have to make sure your audience is following the syntax, which is I find a little difficult. So there's a balance one needs to think about. Yeah, we'll see. So far, likability and verbosity are a problem for me.
Yes, but there is one nice thing about the verbosity is that it's not. You're talking about you need to go at pace. I think we automatically go at pace. It goes at pace. It doesn't have a different pace. We have actually read about 2,000 more words than we usually do in a session. And we're kind of underrunning, actually. So this moves a hell of a lick as it is written. The flow of the dialogue is quick. So in terms of cutting, there is a need to cut it. But actually, there is this thing that actually in terms of length of time it is on stage, is not necessarily as long as it looks in print, because it actually moves very fast. We've had this with comedies before, when we were reading Supposes ages ago, and I scheduled it over 3 sessions, and we sort of were going, I've run out of words. It's like we've only done about 90 minutes. What's going on? So there is that. That's an advantage and a disadvantage, as you were saying about it's going so fast. Can we attach to it at that speed? Is it possible to do that without the audience's brain just slipping off the side and falling onto a puddle on the floor?
My brain is
which is legitimate. And yeah, also just in terms of size of cast, it seems to have this massive cast, but there are people sitting around doing very little. Connor, you drew the short straw, one of the short straws today with Innocentio, who had one really good scene and then bye. You're about to come back on again. But yeah, and that scene is slightly superfluous as well. So it's like your character might not necessarily, depending on what your character does later on, you might not make the cut. Any final thoughts?
For who? Me?
Yes. Sorry, I was.
Oh, sorry.
I was sort of doing a detailed link into you.
Yes, clever. I see what you did there. Yeah, I'm one of those audience members that are most likely not coming back. Yeah, it hasn't grabbed me at all. Some nice scenes, but yeah, like it's a nice scene and nothing, a nice scene and nothing, and I'm kind of not grasping it. So it's a no from me, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work to get the audience to stay, and that's our current job. The audience staying. We haven't quite reached the interval, but we're getting close. So, and yes, next session, watch out for where do we put the interval question. Irene, any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I still stick to my point of these stock characters. I mean, maybe not from Commedia. I don't know the link between the period in England and the Italian Renaissance, but you also see echoes from the Greek comedies, ancient Greek comedies, and the Roman comedies, where there's for example, I think it was that Antonio who was like the servant who's sort of plotting everything, and the smart, the servant is smart, the master's dim, the old fellow who, so I find it quite interesting, and I quite like the words. I mean, I don't know about the staging and how it would there's a lot of stuff in it that is misogynist and is something that a modern audience might not like. I don't like some of it, but I do kind of appreciate the quality of the writing. I think his words are quite good. Whether his plot he manages to maintain an interest in the plot, I don't know.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I missed the very beginning with the intro, but I have a feeling this is actually quite early in the 17th century, isn't it, this one?
Yeah, so 1604, 5, somewhere around there. It's quite a wide dating range, somewhere in the first decade.
Right, and I mean, Boys' Company of that period, and we've seen this before, where you get a lot of these sort of two-hander scenes, which almost seem to have been rehearsed separately and then banged together as more a review than a connected narrative in many cases. And I think the other issue, and I think again we found this because when we looked at another Chapman or two, didn't we, some point a while ago?
We have.
Because he was a classicist, you got this horrible Latinate syntax, which doesn't work well in English, which explains some of the confusion, I think, in the way the word ordering is more, I think, attuned to a Latin phraseology than an English usage.
But it definitely bounces along. I mean, I don't think anyone was having a. It's not like we were stumbling over like we had the syntax of later decades where people really get a bit tongue tied by it all. So it seemed to bounce along quite nicely.
No, it bounced along, and I think there's some good material in there. But I'm just not quite seeing it as a connected narrative as yet.
Well, I think the point about the rehearsal structure is a very good one. That it may be designed that it's got a series of small scenes that can be rehearsed separately by effectively the schoolmaster logic. Though there is an interconnected plot though, and with all of these there often is a very interconnected plot. There are very few that are genuinely review styly, like more like something like Jack Jump's Entertainment, which is quite diffuse. This one feels plotted. It just doesn't feel like we're necessarily coming with the plot. It's all there. It's just not quite satisfyingly laid out. Eric, any final thoughts?
Well, I think we can agree that this is sort of like Gandalf's beard. It needs a trim. But Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like these are sketches that we've seen a million times, and I don't know how it would do in a season of like if you stick it at the end of a season of comedies or tragedies or something like because it feels like you could use it to sort of workshop stuff as well, where you've got like you said, you can it must be fun to have two actors in a room just sort of playing with the text and see what happens. Especially in terms of physical comedy, because I think there would be a lot of physical business between Lorenzo, Angelo, and sort of Lorenzo and his mistress Emilia and Aurelio and all that stuff. Sort of just the physical energy that we obviously can't convey in a cold read on Zoom. It would be very different, I think. And yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued.
Yes, it's interesting.
So,
The text really doesn't give us much in the way of business stage directions. We get entrances and exits, and that's about it. It's not like Ben Jonson or some of the others when they're writing for Boys Company that give you never-ending, very clear stage directions and footnotes and side notes to tell you exactly when everything is supposed to happen at exactly certain times. You know, it is just a stream of words in that sense, and the actors sort of have to infer what they're supposed to be doing, and that, to a degree, gives us scope actually for business that we in a workshop we might be able to figure out some stuff. Susan, any final thoughts?
I begin to think it's pointless mentioning misogyny because it's just in all these plays. What is unforgivable, as far as I'm concerned, is when the characters don't have an even playing ground, an even playground. I can feel myself as an actor. I wouldn't want to be in a long run of this because it would piss me off that the other person has got much more it's not about stage time or anything, but much more possibility for imagination. So the only way I can think of staging this is moving it a lot. Lots of circles going around, say, stages that move round, and then there's another scene going around like that. That would give energy to everyone. That's all I can say about it.
I like that, and there's something about that happens with Boys Company plays, sometimes explicitly in the staging, is that you'll have, when they do have lots of people on stage, they effectively do circle round, and someone gets a moment, someone gets a moment, someone gets a moment, and maybe that's a way of thinking about the play as a totality. Yes, just on the point of misogyny. There is a fundamental problem usually with comedies, is that the misogyny is really baked in. It's not like someone just randomly says some dialogue that's misogynistic. The structure of the society it's depicting is inherently playing with those tropes about where women are placed in society, which makes comedies really hard to deal with because it's all the way through. It's like a stick of rock.
I just want to kill the staticness for some of the characters. That's why I'd have people playing cards in the background. I'd have, even if you've got nothing to say, putting your shoes on, every trick in the book so that the actor's energy can be properly employed.
Yes, because Chapman is not telling us those things, is he?
No.
Lois, any final thoughts?
The trouble is, it really is like so many other Chapman plays, especially, the comedies that I've read, and so many plays that derive from Latin comedy. We read some time ago, I think, A Humorous Day's Mirth, which also has one character who kind of maneuvers everybody else into place. And as I recall, some of the other people in that were a bit more interesting than they are here. I just feel this is all about men trying to seduce or marry or something women, and women, insofar as they have any agency, kind of encouraging them on and telling them where the window is that they should climb in or whatever. This is just not inherently terribly interesting. I think it probably does ask to be overproduced like anything, with funny costumes and funny walks and anything you can throw in to distinguish one character from another. And I almost wondered, actually, you keep talking about how it might be great for workshopping. It almost made me think maybe that's how he'd written it. You've got this boys' company, and here are all these scenes, and here are all these scenes that you can use the smallest boys and the oldest boys. And, it reads more like that than like anything anybody would actually want to see.
Yeah, it's really odd, the way Yeah, assuming this is a comedy, and it is aiming to be a comedy in an overtly funny way rather than just everybody gets married at the end, there haven't been that many jokes. I mean, even within the setups, it feels like we're about to get some jokes or some humorous situations, but the play hasn't actually delivered any yet. There are a few scenes where you could get some laughs, and I think there's something really nice with Emilia that could work really nicely and could be interesting. But there's very little that's genuinely funny. Even the jokes that's sort of hiding in some of the lines, they're not very overt. They're really not hitting me over the head with this is a comedic line or a comedic scene, and that's a bit of a problem if it's a comedy. I don't know. They might all die at the end. Can be arranged.
I kind of want them to.
Oh no, I like Emilia. I really like Emilia.
But jokes happen when people are playing together. That's what I mean. And there's no opportunity for that because there's one pedant and another sort of. It's not even Auguste and Auguste. Irene, absolutely right. There's so very much like the clowning characters. It's like they're all one. Anyway, it's not even.
Yes. Well, let's see if it gets more even next time, because we have 2 more sessions where there's hopefully a lot more action as things presumably unravel in hilarious ways. Or if you'd like to read some plays with us in the future, you can join us. You don't have to watch this on the YouTube. You can join us and read and be baffled or amazed or confused to your heart's content. Sign-up forms are on our website, beyondshakespeare.org, and you can always, every week, we do a number of sessions, and anyone can join in, and that person could be you. Or not. You can just keep watching the videos. That's fine. We'll be okay. I'm not hurt if you don't turn up. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. All that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. She sleeps like a sucking pig.